Tonight, Eric Dumarak from Mountain Skills Academy gives us the lowdown on glissading safely. That is, sliding down the mountain on your bum. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And while you're there, take a moment to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to get notified of new videos. Let's get cracking. Welcome to the BC Search and Rescue Association's Adventure Smart Expert Webinar Series.
Eric is a mountain guide with the International Federation of Mountain Guides Association and the founder of Mountain Skills Academy and Adventures, British Columbia's largest and most established mountain school, professional guide service, and adventure tours. MSAA is the leading provider of avalanche training, mountaineering courses, and guided mountain adventures, known for its strong focus on safety, professional instruction, and mountain stewardship. Over the past 3 decades, Eric has guided extensively across Canada and internationally, with experience in alpine climbing, ski mountaineering, glacier travel, and expedition-style objectives, as well as playing a major role in mountain education in British Columbia. I'd like to welcome Eric to our virtual stage, and I hope you have some questions for him at the end, and I look forward to your presentation. Eric, the stage is all yours. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for that warm introduction. And this is exciting. It's glissading again, like Sandra said, is not really a topic that we discuss too much, but it's very much a part of the like hiking, mountaineering, even skiing. You lose a ski, you got a butt slide down, it might be better than post holing. It's a very much a repertoire that we use like all seasons, and we're gonna learn all about it tonight. And so yeah, let's get to it. I'm gonna share my presentation with you guys. Just give me a second here. I got this there. Yes, okay. It's this one right here. Okay. Everybody can see that. We're looking good. All right. So yes, welcome to the again, you guys know where you are, the Adventure Smart Expert Webinar Series, and this one is on glissading. First I'd like to acknowledge that we are, on the lands of the Squamish and Illilouette nations. They're an important part of what we do as well. We share many of the, let's say, same thoughts as the elders do. I've had a great opportunity to talk to many chiefs, and we are of the same thinking for many things, obviously, that have to do with the great outdoors. So, anyways, thank you, Squamish Nation and Willet Nation. And so let's get into it. Glissading. Okay, well, what is it? As Scott said, it's sliding down on your butt. It really is. And why would anybody do that? Well, you see otters do that. I've seen jackrabbits do that. Animals do it for fun. Children love to do that. But alpinists, the best alpinists, the beginner alpinists, hikers, anybody will tell you it's just a lot of fun. That's the first thing about it. And one of the fun things about it is that you're sliding on snow and you're going fairly fast if the angle is correct and the snow is right. And it's just like really fun. And it's also it can also be very fast to the point where you could lose control and you have to be careful. So we'll talk about that, about the butts. There's always a butt. So if we're gonna be sliding down fast and furious, let's learn a couple things about glissading.
This whole thing is about butts, really.
Yeah, right? Good one. Yes, indeed. So yeah, so just again, I'm a mountain guide, and I've been fortunate to, have guided all over the world. But I definitely have done most of my guiding, and it's my preference to guide in Canada, especially in the winter, actually. And in the summers, I did several years in the Alps. And one of the things that I love is instructing people, is sharing my passion with people. So not just private guiding or guiding, just whatever discipline it is, whether it's ice or rock or skiing. I just love teaching courses and sharing my knowledge with others. I find that very gratifying. And one of those skills is glissading. So I've got the whole lowdown for you guys tonight. Um, let's just quickly look kind of at some very basic glissading. So you guys would have seen that, that was more glissading for fun. So we bring people we don't just guide people or instruct them. We also do these tours, via ferratas, glacier walks, interpretive walks, and eagle tours, all kinds of stuff like that. And one of the tours we do is glissading. And in this particular, this video was from Whistler Bowl actually, and it's a very controlled area. But you might have seen from the video that there was also like islands of rock sticking out of the slope. And you can imagine that if you were glissading down, like you saw those people on their butts, and you were heading towards one of those islands of rocks, well, if you take your personal velocity and the impact force on those rocks, I think you can figure out that, it wouldn't end very well. So what we need to do is we need to understand a couple things and also have some tools in order to control the speed. And we need to follow probably some certain guidelines to make sure that if we're going to glissade, we're going to set ourselves up for success. So glissading, when it's very technically useful if you climb up a mountain and then you want to go down, because you save so much time. I've my longest glissade ever, interestingly enough, you'd think it's in the Alps or Himalayas. Actually, it was on Mount Shasta. I think it's like a 2,000 meter glissade, continuous glissade without interruption. It's wild. It's a center
Holy
cool.
crow.
Yeah, it's a center couloir on Mount Shasta, and once from the summit, you walk down a little cliff bend, and you literally sit on your butt. And what took you a couple hours to climb, you're done in like, I don't know, like 20 minutes or something. It's ridiculous,
Oh my gosh, that sounds
it's
like fun.
it's
Okay.
it's amazing, and it's a straight shooter. It's a straight line. So it just like, if you think about it, what makes it complex in the mountains? I always think when people ask me, what what brings complexity to the mountains? Well, one of the most important things I think is all the transitions that you have to do when doing technical climbing. For those of you who mountaineer, even for people who are going to scramble or hike, there's always a transition or two, and they take a lot of time. So, for example, on the mountain, there's walking, and then there's like scrambling, and then there's short pitching where we might climb just a couple meters, and then there's long pitches where we might climb a full rock climbing pitch on the mountain with ice screws or placing equipment in cracks and whatnot to protect ourselves, banging in pitons. And then we're right back to maybe walking again. And sometimes we glissade in between those stages, but definitely on the way down, most mountains, well, there's rock peaks, but a lot of mountains have snow on them. And so if you can save a lot of time by glissading down, it just shortens your day, and speed is safety in the mountains. And so having that efficiency, I think it's a great tool. Um, so yeah, that's what kind of glissading is. Um, but in order to, like I said, in order to do it in control, there's some like guidelines I'd like to give you. So we've already talked about, that it's fast, it's fun. You guys saw the people on our tour, they don't have any ice axes because we don't, it's not necessarily, they don't really need them there. They can just slide in and stand up and it's over. But if you needed to be glissading on a hike or on a mountain, and there's snow, then you need some kind of tool to help self-rest. The usual tool is an ice axe. And I'm gonna look explain that a little bit. But you could also use your ski poles in the same way, and I'm gonna talk about that a little bit as well. Um, so, before we go, let's just start from the beginning, you know? So, glissading is, again, like skiing, you know, you want to make sure there's no hazards. You want to make sure you have good visibility. Glissading on snow in the rain would probably not be so much fun because you get sopping wet. So, let's start from the beginning, you know? So, before we even go out, let's consider what are conditions like. Is there avalanche hazard, which hopefully a lot of you know you can have avalanche hazard in the summer. So it starts by with the three T's, right? From Adventure Smart. We can start there. That's the perfect way to start. Make your trip plan, look at the weather, look at the conditions, make sure you have the tools you need, right? And then additional tools that I highly recommend if you're going to glissade, even if you're going on a hike or especially if you're going on a scramble and you're not necessarily using your ice axe to climb the slope, you know, it's a very useful tool because you can do a special technique I'm going to talk about later, which is called self-rest, which basically you can come to a complete stop very fast. But the main tools, because we're going downhill at speed, is a helmet. A helmet, you know, is you know very important. Um, you need a first aid kit. I noticed here ice, it meant ice axe there. I have a little typo. Ice axe, helmet, first aid kit. Shell pants are really useful. If you just have jeans or things like that, they'll get wet. And I would warn people on glissading with shorts because if you have high friction, it'll burn your skin actually. And I also say gloves. Same thing. If people are glissading without gloves on and they roll on their back or on their I mean on their stomach and they're trying to do the mad cat drag to stop themselves, you can burn your fingers. And there's always like little rocks and you know condensed snow and compacted snow and ice there that can also damage your fingers and your hands. So yeah, ice axe, helmet, first aid kit, shell pants, and gloves. Those are the minimums, you know. And if you don't have an ice axe, at the very least, ski poles, and you can use your ski poles together. I always recommend two ski poles. You can use them together, bunched together, and I'll talk about that in a second.
We at Adventure Smart always let people know that generally that the shorthand is cotton kills. Jeans are an awful thing to be using when you're out,
Yeah.
because once they get wet, they will never get dry. So if you're
Oh,
planning on glissading in the backcountry, where there's a possibility that perhaps things don't go so well and you have to wait for search and rescue, you don't want to be constantly wet and cold. So don't avoid that cotton altogether if you can.
exactly. And I loved your intro video talking about synthetics and shells. You know, I mean, that's exactly, there's a reason these things were invented, right? Um, Thank you for that. All right, so how do we glissade like a pro? All right. So the first thing we want to do is, well, we all understand that we're not going to glissade on like a shale slope. In that case, we're going to stand on our feet and kind of, you know, ski down maybe, or on our with our boots or walk down. So you need a sliding surface, of course. And if it's pure ice, you can imagine that it's not going to be very good either because it's just going to go, you know, Mach 10 and you're not going to be able to stop. So it's snow. And in particular, in the summer, we're going to talk about neve. You know, neve is kind of more uh, dried out, compacted, aged snow, and that can be very effective as well. Um, and then if we have too much snow and the slope is not steep enough, you're not going to get any momentum. So it's finding that balance, that perfect slope, you know? What degree is it? Well, it's anywhere from 25 and you can go all the way to 50, 55 degree depending on your experience in the snow. I don't want to give an exact you know, slope angle, but it's a guideline and it's really dependent on you know the friction that the snow affords, the steepness of the slope, and then your personal experience, you know. So if you're not sure, probably the best thing to do is you know start out by practicing on lower angle slopes. And you know there's many of them out there, and you can get a sense of the angle and you know the snow compaction. And you'll notice that if there's any kind of snow on the ground that's more like powder snow, loose snow, you'll notice you'll go much faster the second time or third time around because once you go down, you kind of create like this otter slide, and now the snow is compacted and it makes it even faster. So that's another thing you got to remember is the next people going after you, they should potentially maybe choose a spot right beside you rather than going inside the runnel that you created because maybe it's going to go too fast. But yeah, the main thing is understanding that it's a couple things, right? The angle, the surface, what type of snow is it, right? And then the most important thing is what kind of hazards are on a slope. If are you gonna end up in the rocks, or is there, I don't know, like sometimes we get like these what's called sun cups in the summer. The snow and the wind kind of carve the snow into like these beautiful cups. And those can be very painful the mouth jarring, you need like a mouth guard to go down that thing. It's like you'll break some teeth, and it's not comfortable at all, and you wouldn't want to glissade that. So I just I'm gonna put it out there. I'm gonna warn you guys, you do need to practice and really assess that. And if you're out there and you're not sure, then try it on a lower angle slope nearby or something where the run out has no consequence and where you can like confidently stop either by standing up or by putting pressure with your ice axe or ski poles. So just give it a test first, okay? So I think that's pretty obvious, though. You'll look at a slope, and most people will understand that makes sense. Having said that, though, I will, say that there have been accidents of people glissading, and they thought they had calculated everything correctly, but they didn't, and unfortunately didn't end well. So don't take it for granted. It can go very fast, and you really do got to mitigate those hazards. All right. The next thing is how do you glissade? Well, from the earlier video, you're going to see another one there. Basically, you're sitting up and with feet, facing downhill, bunched together, and you're sliding on your butt, exactly as it says. And you're using the ice axe. Basically, I'll show you again, like as kind of a break. I'll show you exactly how to do that in a second there. And I have a little diagram of the ice axe here, but basically you grip the head of the ice axe with your upper hand, and the lower hand grips the shaft, and then the spike there goes into the snow, and you kind of push it in or out of the snow at very various pressure, and that's kind of what stops you. But oftentimes a very effective way to stop is simply just to stand up and take a couple running steps. If the slope is not too steep, that's ideal. And if you can just stand up and take a couple running steps or come to a stop and you haven't hit anything, then you've found the perfect spot to basically glissade, all right? That's the goal. You don't want to be going down, like super fast, like grease lightning, and then all of a sudden have to do an emergency stop, right? And you don't want to just sit, not moving either, because that'd be no fun and inefficient. So you got to find that kind of middle ground, right? But let me show you. I have a handy ice axe here. Here we go. Here's my ice axe. And basically, I'm right-handed, so I'm gonna put that ice axe in my right hand like that. My left hand down here, kind of something like that. I'm gonna hold the axe against my chest with the pick facing down. You don't want to hold it like this. I'm sure everybody can figure out why that is. Yeah, you want to hold it like downwards. And this part, it goes on the opposite side of your body in terms of this is my right hand, it's going to go on the left hand side. I'm going to stick it in the snow like this. That, because I'll be sitting down, the pick is going to be in the snow. And you'll see in the next video there. And that's what I kind of lever, but on my chest here, not in my face, on my chest. That's what I'm going to lever down into the snow with added pressure. If you're left-handed, you can grab it with your left hand and do the opposite side. Put the axe and the pick down into the snow on your right-hand side. And that, by the way, friends, is also the perfect position to self-arrest, which is a whole entire other skill set, not really in the scope of this discussion, but it's a skill you can learn to self-arrest. There's a million one videos on how to self-arrest. And if ever you want to take a course, we give a mountaineering course, and it's obviously part of that course. But yeah, so because you're already in the self-arrest position, if you were to lose control or go too fast and feel like you need to stop, Well, you could roll on to your tummy there and get that ice, the ads here, the pick. I mean, you could get the pick into the snow and come to really quick self-arrest. All right. So it's a very effective tool. Now, if you didn't have the ice axe here, what you could do instead is you would grab your poles, and you don't want to use the handle of the pole. Okay, you want to use the sharp end at the bottom, and it doesn't matter if you have a basket or not, but you kind of shuffle your hands right down above the basket if you have one or not, doesn't matter, and your other hand slightly above, and you do the same thing. You grab your poles together, two of them, and you kind of apply pressure as you need it. And warning, if your poles are carbon fiber or you only have one pole, if you put too much pressure, you run the risk of, and your hand is too high on the shaft of the pole, uh, you might run the risk of like breaking or bending your pole. So be careful. And
So,
then,
just so I
yeah,
got that right, my
yeah,
strong hand is on top
yeah,
because my strong hand is pushing down,
that's
and my
right.
other hand is just guiding the
Yeah,
where it
well,
goes.
this hand does
Hmm.
put a lot of pressure. So this hand pushes
Okay.
down, you know, and this
Hmm.
hand just, and you're dragging the pick, right? So it's not like you're slamming it down. You
Right.
drag your pick the entire way down,
Okay. Will
lighter
that
but
not
heavy.
cause you to turn in that
No,
direction?
no, because you're kind of using your body and your hips to kind of guide yourself, and
Okay.
invariably, people will go off their intended route. The train might deflect you right or left, and it's just a matter of like you kind of shuffle your body, and people do spins without wanting to, things like that, because it is hard to control. You're an object sliding down the hill. But if anything, the ice axe actually helps you track better downhill.
Hmm.
And like I said, it's two things. It's pressing down with the right hand, but it's also that dragging motion. As you apply more and more power, more and more force downwards, that pick starts breaking you. And then ultimately, if you need to come to a complete stop and you don't think you can stand up and take those running steps, once you stand up to kind of help you slow down, then you can always like go ahead and self-arrest. All right? So, and then one caveat I'd have to all of this is be very, very careful if you have crampons on. I always recommend people to take their crampons off. The reason is you can imagine if you were sliding down and somehow you hooked what would be the heel part of your crampon into the snow, you could actually do a full somersault and go flying. And this
Wow.
is this is the cause of many accidents is people glissading with their crampons, and then the heel part of the crampon catches, and next thing you know, they do a somersault or two in the air. Like they literally flip up. I've never seen it happen. I've always mitigated that problem with my groups, but I've heard about it. And
So does that apply? That applies for the big crampons. Does it also apply for like micro spikes?
not so much micro spikes, no.
Okay.
Just the big crampons because those teeth are pretty big.
Yeah.
Having said that, you can glissade with crampons, of course, but beware. And when you do that, of course, you'd have to elevate you'd have to tilt your feet, toward your toes towards your nose, toes, towards you, and then lift your feet up slightly, and you can get away with it. And have I ever done it? Yes, I have, in the right snow conditions because I didn't
Cheater,
know.
cheater, pumpkin
I
eater.
know, right? So I don't want to put people in the box and say it's a definitive rule, but there's certain conditions where definitely I have taken my crampons off because it's really long and scary, and you don't want them to hook. And suffice to say, on that Mount Shasta one, I climbed up with crampons. I definitely didn't put my crampons on the way down for that.
No, not on that big one. Do as we
No.
say, not as we do. But we
Yeah.
really, we really want to. I'm joking, everybody. I really, we want to mitigate those risks and minimize those as much as possible. So, yeah, great,
Yeah.
great points here, Eric. Thank you.
Yeah. And so this is kind of a cool, somebody who's glissading. You can see the only thing they're not doing there, I couldn't get a video. I tried looking for one, but they're not actually glissading with the pick in the ground because they're practicing self-arrest. And they have their crampons on there in this kind of soft snow, so they're getting away with it. But let's just look at this quick video, and you'll see them like come to a self-arrest stop. And also, so this is classic, like I would say, you see all the sun cups is what's
Yeah.
behind that in the upper left part of the screen. So they're not, and you can tell the snow is kind of soft and wet. So I am thinking this is sometime in late June.
It
Uh,
also looks the angle looks relatively benign, or perhaps
yeah,
that's just the camera.
no, it is. It doesn't take
Yeah.
much. See, this is like maybe like 25, 26 degrees.
Hmm.
We're not on a 30-degree slope yet. So yeah, let's look at how it looks. Nice. And you
Nice. Very
very
good
good
technique.
technique. I say it again. You can see how she lifted her feet up right away so that those crampons don't catch. That's why if this person wasn't wearing crampons when we teach self-arrest, then they could have actually activated their feet as well to start dragging and stopping them. But because she has crampons on, that would be something to absolutely avoid because those spikes will dig in and cause you to somersault, this time backwards, you know? So, yeah, yeah. So, but it's kind of cool. I'll just gonna play it again for you guys real quick if I can, just so you can see it again. So usually you'd be dragging, imagine you're dragging the pick before she did that, and then you can
Nice.
come to
Very
a
good
really
technique.
fast stop. All right. And you can see down there again, like up and left there, I see some rocks and things like that. So, where we were practicing, we made sure that there was a nice runoff and it just like kind of smoothed out and there's absolutely no hazard, like a perfect spot. So, yeah. All right.
Practice
So,
where it's safe, play where it's fun.
yeah. And so, I don't know doom and gloom here, but I gotta, like I said, you wouldn't want to glissade like into rocks. It is possible to lose control, to lose your ice axe even. And you don't definitely wouldn't want to glissade into a crevasse or off a cliff or something like that. And I'll just say that, there's been some unfortunate accidents even close to home. I know on Sky Pilot, there was an accident there, and unfortunately the person hit the rocks at the bottom. There's some big talus and scree talus and large rocks. And yeah, and yeah, so just remember these guidelines and play safe out there, I guess. Control your speed. Yeah, and I think one of the biggest thing is not too steep and just make sure you don't have rocks and you're not going towards a crevasse or a cliff, you know. So yeah, and beware of the crampons if you have them. That's another thing too. Just reading my notes here, you might not do a flip, but it's easy. You could easily like twist or break your ankle, and next thing you know, you're calling Scott here to come and rescue you. So you don't want to do that. Um, all right.
And of course,
So
you would call if you did get into trouble in the backcountry, you would call 911,
yes,
and that's the best way to get in touch with search and rescue across the country.
but Scott, I have you on speed dial. I thought I'd just call you. Okay, just kidding. All right. So I just put this picture. You can see the photo on the right. You see the little footprints. That middle of that slope would probably not be there's slope right here. It would probably not be a good one to glisse off of. It'd be too steep and really, really scary. However, the slope on the left picture, that is a kind of a slope a little bit lower down where the angle eases. You could glisse it like the entire slope maybe. And it'd be a lot of fun as long as, again, there's no crevasses below you, no rocks below you, and that you have the right tools to control the speed, and also that you have that snow consistency that's not ice or too slippery, basically. So yeah, this is kind of cool though. It gives you a perspective that this mountain, this is a mountain in the Alps. People climb up. You can't really see it too well, but people glissade down this slope or on the other side. Nobody would want to walk down when you can glissade down. Yeah, and you have these throngs and throngs of people, and the glissading starts going faster and faster on this particular mountain, but it has a nice rain out and you slow down, so that's fine. All right. So once again, the best thing is to practice. Practice makes perfect, right? So try to do it with your ice axe or with your ski poles, and get a sense of that position. And then play with different slope angles. And always again, I know reiterating this too many times, but that's what we do when we're in this business. Again, verify your runout hazards. No rocks, cliffs, crevasses. Determine snow consistency and slope angle. Right. Beware of the crampons, and just also remember that in the mountains, like we're so fortunate in BC. We are so fortunate. We don't have to pay for rescue, and you have all these teams that train like incredibly hard, to do a really good job, that get up like at 3 o'clock in the morning, leave their families to go put themselves, um, in harm's way no matter what, like they do. Obviously, the most important is the rescuer's safety, because if the rescuer get hurts, then it would just compound the issue. But they still always do, no matter what, it's inherent to the job. You put you're going to assume some risks. And that's the last thing we want to do, and take advantage of that. So the least impact we have on our SAR teams. This is why I'm a really big fan of Adventure Smart, and these kind of techniques and doing them well, the less impact we'll have on search and rescue. All right. So, yeah.
You're
Um,
hired.
what's that?
You're hired.
All right, okay. And that's it. That's all I got for you guys. I hope that was enough. And I'd love to have your questions.
Oh, yes, we definitely have the questions coming. Uh, let's start with one from Aaron here, which was mimicking one that I was going to say. Aaron says he frequently sees people glissade down commonly trafficked areas like Mount Seymour and Hollyburn.
Hmm.
Um, Before I get to his question, I'm going to start off with my question, which I get to do that, which is, what is the etiquette behind that? I know that I was just hiking a few weeks ago, and I saw someone glissading down the hiking trail. So the hiking trail where people had gone in and shoved their boot and then pushed down, shoved their boot and pushed down to try and get themselves up a steep area. Then they slid it down and essentially removed all of that work and made it difficult for people to go up. So, is there actually some kind of etiquette that you would suggest on where you should be sliding and where you shouldn't be?
Yeah, it's just like there's nothing more frustrating when you're ski touring than somebody who's post holing in the up track, for example. It's just like, and then, like anything else, there's no attendant there that's sitting there with a sign saying, well, these are the stairs going up and these are the stairs going down. And so it just obviously makes, common sense that you do not want to slide in an ascent area. And sometimes it is a problem because they're a couloir or something like that, I would say in that case probably just down climb, like face a slope and down climb, face into the slope and down climb. But yeah, we try, and not just that, but if you're sliding down like footsteps and all that, it's not going to be very comfortable.
Yeah,
But the most important thing is you will have a much harder time of stopping than like say if you're walking up. So the thing that would concern me is there somebody else that it maybe is going to come onto the slope that's going to pop out of the forest or that I haven't seen, and then like basically I'm the bowling ball, and they're the bowling pins. That would not be a good scenario.
yeah.
So yeah, I would say it's just in general, the etiquette of the mountain is kind of like that. It's also what makes sense. Mountain biking will often have like hikers confront mountain bikers going downhill. In that sense, it just makes sense for the hikers to move aside. As much as the hikers may say this is a hiking trail, whatever, the thing is like let's just be pragmatic and safe, not talk about
Physics.
not talk about theory or whatever. Or it's like the mountain bike's going down, and if they
Yeah.
stop, it can be very hard for them actually, and
Yeah.
they might crash. And to you, even might make it even worse. So it just kind of just common sense. So I would say, like in those busy places, if possible, of course, don't slide down, the up track or like the steps that people have made. That's just not right.
Getting back to Aaron's question, he himself has found himself sliding down from First Peak when the snow started icing up and felt at one point it was a little bit too sketch. For common areas like this, what to what degree do we still consider helmet and ice axe necessary? So helmet we haven't actually talked about. So let's go into a little bit more detail about helmets, ice axe,
Yeah.
and where do we decide if it's necessary versus not?
Yeah, like a lot of people discount helmets on a hike, and people have died hiking from falling rocks. So it's kind of situational. If you're in the mountains and there's slopes above you that have potential rock fall and you're hiking, you know, adventure hiking in this case, you're not in the beautiful, like flowery meadows there. You're like on the side of a cliff somewhere hiking, and there's hazard from above in the spring. Maybe the snow's melting, causing rockfall. I would definitely advise a helmet, for example. So we're not even talking about glissading yet. So glissading wise, obviously, at a bare minimum, I would have an ice axe or ski poles. Um, do I always wear a helmet? Um, Let me think. Maybe on some rare occasions that I have not worn a helmet glissading. Maybe I was doing a scrambling course or something like, or a hike where the angle of the snow is really low, there's no hazards, and I was able to determine that. Again, I don't like putting people in the box and saying this is the way it has to be because it's not true. So there are exceptions to the rule. So I guess in order you'd have to determine that, am I gonna spin around, lose control and hit something, am I gonna even just roll on a slope? But when I roll on a slope, my head's gonna hit the slope and it's
Mhm.
gonna hurt me. So these are the kind of considerations. But if there's rocks, then that's a no-brainer. Don't glissade if you don't have a helmet, because if something goes wrong,
Because you'll have a no-brainer.
yeah, right. You're good with those one-liners. I like it.
He's
Yeah,
very good with those. I think he has
yeah,
a list, or they're just constantly rumbling around in there. I don't
right.
know how he
No
does
pun
it, but he does
intended.
it. It's
No pun.
crazy.
Yeah,
I was I was also thinking along the lines of what you're talking about, Eric, and in
yeah,
everyone's intentions of what they plan to do for that day. Whatever those
yeah,
intentions are. Is it a hike?
yeah.
Is it a hike with microspikes? Is it a hike to go glissading? Is it a split board? Is it a snowshoe? What are we doing? What are we doing and how are we doing it and how are we getting back safely?
Mhm.
We don't always plan to glissade. Like you said, sometimes it's just, oh, this looks like a fun way to get down. Let's go for it. Here we go. And
Yeah,
with everything aligned. But if we go back to our first tee, just to come back to that trip planning piece,
yeah,
because we talk about what should we have? Should we have an ice axe? Should we have crampons, microspikes, helmet, all the right gear? We talked about clothing a little bit tonight. As we plan to go out to do these adventures, let's think about what we might do. I talk a lot about thinking about the what ifs, but also the intention of that activity. What's the group intention versus just sporadically flying down on our butts, going down here or there, which can happen. And with all of the right steps in place, it's done safely. But if this is what we're planning to do and it can be done safely, you've just described it really well, then let's carry that helmet up with us. If we don't need it on the way up, then it's on our pack, right? And so is our ice
yeah,
axe, and so are our crampons if that's what we're using to ascend. So I'm just going back to that very first piece so we can think about what are our intentions of this activity? What do we plan to do? And
yeah,
let's think about those things that Aaron asked about, which is the ice axe and the helmet specifically, right? These are investments. This is what we all choose to do. We have easy access to awesome terrain. It's great. And we can go out there with a few extra pieces of gear to have fun coming down in a different way, in a safe way.
yeah. And there's again, Aaron, there's totally slopes that are lower angle where ski poles and no helmet, it's like you look at it and you say, well, look, there's nothing's gonna happen to me here. There's no hazards from above. There's no hazards below. There's no hazards on the slope. It's just a snow slope. In fact, you could just you
A
could
toboggan hill.
yeah, and so like the little video I showed you guys, those people, had a helmet on, but they were also just glissading, without an ice axe or anything, right? Because it was safe. Also another good point there that Sandra makes me think of is that you can also walk down a steeper part of a slope and then glissade the rest if there's a good run out and test it out. And you can always, it's sometimes so much fun that we'll go back up and do it again. And also I would say be careful if you think about other people's ability. We always think about human factors, in backcountry and measuring risk and all that. So if the people you're with, don't necessarily have the same skills that you do, and don't have never tried or whatever, probably not a good idea to put them and just say, "Oh, this is so easy, just try it out," because it might not be as straightforward for them. And next thing you know, you have an incident on your hands. So, remember when you're showing somebody a technique or suggesting for somebody to do whatever it is, you're now the leader. It's your responsibility now. You've just taken on that responsibility. So you got to be very careful egging people on or telling people what to do but if you do, now you have some knowledge that you could pass on.
When I go into mech, I went up to a person and said, "Hey, can you get me a helmet for glissading?" And they just went, "So, what type of helmet? Like, is this a bike helmet? Is this something that I'm doing? Like, would it be a
Yeah.
downhill skiing helmet? What's the appropriate gear for
Yeah.
glissading?"
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Of course, it's not glissading is not a sport in and of itself, but we could start like cross country snowboarding, a new sport, I'm a glissader. That's what I do. But it would be fun. Yeah, just in my world, it's a UIA approved helmet, you know, is kind of like it's a climbing helmet.
Okay.
And if I was using it for hiking and all that, I'd find they have some helmets that are so light these days, But having said that, like, in this case, again, it's dependent, like if you think about it, like a biking helmet is supposed to like stop you and protect your brain when you're going high speed, on a bike, potentially hitting a tree or pavement or so again, I would imagine that should be also good enough, in that case, if you bike somewhere, you let people do multi-sports and they don't want to take like two helmets or a ski helmet would definitely be fine, if, so, but the traditional, when I think about glissading, it's traditionally, the season kind of goes from, spring to fall and it's in the context of hiking, scrambling, or mountaineering. And so
Right.
in all those cases, I'm kind of thinking of a climbing helmet. Yeah. And
Uh, Sorry?
there's some very light ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of gear, Sam was asking about the possibility of wear and tear in your Gore-Tex pants. He was saying some people put on overshorts. I've actually seen people who bring like sit-upons that they sit on instead of just using their pants.
Yeah.
Can you give us an idea of what you do
Yeah.
to protect your bottom?
Yeah. Some people, glissade on their shovel. There's weird things that I've seen. But yeah, I mean, what can I tell you? I use my gear to use it. I don't really, if it's full of rocks that are embedded in the snow, which can happen, then probably I
Might
like
not be a
my
good place to go
yeah.
glissading.
Exactly. I like my Gore-Tex enough. I'm going to make that judgment, you know. But it's certainly never been a thought that, oh, I'm going to wear out my Gore-Tex here, And I've glissaded, thousands of meters of glissade ground, because I plan to use it. I think even as a professional walking with crampons, I do far more damage, even with gaiters on, that my crampons do far more ga damage accidentally even as a professional to my Gore-Tex pants
Yeah.
than Sading does. But yeah, you can, people have, brought like heavy duty, like garbage bags and kind of made a big diaper and use that. But I just find out, I just use my Gore-Tex pants. I throw them on, and I really am, by the way, a big fan talking about gear. I'm a huge fan of those pants that you don't have to take your boots off. So they have a full-length zipper on both sides and you just
I
basically
think they're called stripper pants, aren't they?
yeah, is that right? The zipper comes all the way down to your waist almost, and so you can just like throw them on your boots and then you zip down just the pant legs, and those are perfect, like the for mountaineering, for glissading, for anything. So if you're looking for that amazing specific glissading pant, I would recommend that one because then you don't have to take your boots off.
And you can also go to a Magic Mike show and see if you can stub in.
There
Uh,
you go.
the Aaron also asked whether or not you have specific ice axes that you think would be better for glissading versus
Yeah.
other things.
There's definitely a better ice axe. So This is a medium length ice axe, but you know the you'll if you go to the store and you'll see the traditional long ice axes, they're about like what are they? Like I would say they're trying to remember if they're 120 centimeters. But they're fairly long, and the thing is with the longer ice axe is that you can use it, you know, on a even on a semi-steep slope, you can kind of use it like a ski pole, like a cane. You know, it helps you go up, and then
Hmm.
you always have it in your hand to self-arrest. And then if you think about it, you don't have to crunch down as much as you would with a short ice axe to get that pick in the snow to use it as a brake, you know. So when I have a tiny like when I ski tour, I have this like tiny little ice axe. I didn't bring it. It's like really small, really light. But I love it because I just would use it mainly for like ice climbing on a steep section maybe that I'm gonna then short rope my clients. So, you know, I one ice axe and if I slip during a boot pack, maybe I'll have it on just for a quick self-arrest. But the longer ice axe is a better tool, but it's kind of going out of fashion. People prefer light and so the lighter, smaller ice axes are
Easy
definitely
pack.
more in favor. And to be honest, I rarely carry a long ice axe anymore. But would it be the optimal tool? Yes. But having said that, I carry just a short little ice axe, and I just adjust my the way I hold it is basically what I do. Yeah.
Couple more questions. One is there like some kind of online resource people can use to find slopes that they might want to go glissading down? To sort of something that says, oh, you know what, a great place to go glissading is um, Brockton Point on Mount Seymour, for instance. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Is there some kind of place that people could look for
You
that
know, on the
information?
North Shore, like, you know, all those resorts, like Cypress, Seymour, all of them will have like the perfect slope. You know, so think about a slope that's, you know, just think about like Sea to Sky Gondola would be another good spot, Whistler, Blackcomb, you know, but just like walking in the backcountry where you don't need to buy a lift pass to go practice glissading. You just need like a bump with snow on it, literally. And in the forest, there's a lot of like tree chutes, like where there's no trees, you know. Of course, be careful of tree wells, avalanche hazard, and all that. And you know, it's better to practice it in the spring, I think, or early summer, or else you're gonna post hole. But yeah, you know, that question tells me that you need to just get out even more and enjoy the backcountry because there's literally thousands of areas that you can go if you just go out and explore a little bit. You'll go out in like a good time is like you know, end of May, and you'll find all kinds of spots, you know, that are great. Again, just you know, you make sure there's no hazards, trees in front of you, rocks, crevasses, you're gonna go off a cliff with that right snow consistency, and May is a great time to start practicing that. But there's endless spots, you know, and we're surrounded by mountains and snow here. So, well, in Squamish and North anyways. I don't know how the North Shore is doing right now, but we got
No, well,
snow.
yeah, if you could go up to Cerise Creek and like there's lots of places up along
Well,
the Duffy and stuff that's just absolutely gorgeous for
and,
that.
and and not a long walk, you know. You just look
Mhm.
for a little slope there. Yeah.
Now, if you started up Cerise Creek and you thought, oh, it was a nice, but it was in May and you didn't realize until you got up to the top that there was some snow up there, uh, what do you think about using, say, a good hiking stick that you've picked up off of the side? Do you have the main danger that it's just going to snap? If you find something nice and hearty, will a stick essentially work for a pick?
Well, I guess, you know, at that point I that's very hypothetical, and I can't say that is it an ash tree? Is it what kind of if it's made out of ash and
Hmm.
you've sharpened the end a little bit and it's the perfect, you know, it's not gonna snap like you say and it's the right length, then why wouldn't it work, I guess, you know? But
Think that's a whole other webinar, Scott.
yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
gonna I'm just gonna toss that out there and say if I'm stuck one day for a webinar
yeah.
topic, I'll try to figure that one out.
Perfect.
I follow my three T, Scott, so I always have a tool. I have an ice axe with
Yeah.
some tools, you know. So
Oh, everyone needs to find
I,
a gold star for Eric for that one. Can you find a gold star and give him one of those?
Last question. Any concerns about glissading while wearing a heavy pack. I always wear a heavy
Yeah.
pack, and
Yeah.
usually the pack is taking at least half my weight when I'm sitting down. So, what are your thoughts about wearing a
No,
pack while glissading?
it's totally fine. In fact, you can kind of posture back on the pack, and the bottom of the pack, kind of will start glissading with you, and will bear, like you won't be on his shoulders as much. So you just kind of, if it's a big, big pack, you kind of like posture, and then the bottom of the posture back, and you'll see that the bottom of the pack starts becoming the friction point, and as and so it's your probably it's probably like your ankles, your calves, maybe your lower leg, and then the backpack. And so
Hmm.
your butt's actually elevated a little bit, and sometimes that works if it's steep enough. So then, like on a long glissade, you don't even feel the pack too much. You're kind of like reclining, going for the ride,
You
you know?
probably want to have your waist belt on though, so it's not like
Yeah,
completely flying off you.
like anything, like you want your helmet strap up, and you don't want to start, losing, people like to hang a cup on their pack or something like
A
that.
yard sale.
You don't want to like, oh, that object is all the way up there, and I'm
Yeah,
to go get it, or I don't know. Yeah, so yeah, that's just common sense for sure. Do
that's
that.
a good point.
Yeah, but pack is fine, totally fine.
We have more questions, but we don't
Yeah,
have a heck of a lot more time. So let's go, Sandra, let's go ahead and maybe do a bit of a quiz and see whether or not people can win a book.
That sounds good to me. And we've come right down to the last couple of minutes. So Eric, thanks. That was awesome. It was really good coverage. I think the Q&A really is where we had some extra pieces covered. So thanks for your expertise. And it's lovely to have you on board here.
no problem.
Yeah, we're going to give away a prize. This is the book that we will mail to you. You will answer in the chat. We need your email and the answer on the same in the same field. Yes, as Scott would say, put both your answer and your email because we're going to use that to pick the winner and then figure out how to communicate with you and send you some information about shipping this book to you.
I can say if anybody has lingering clerk, they must know. You can email info@msaa.ca, and I'm happy to answer your questions.
Right on.
So
Cool.
Perfect.
info@msaa.ca, and yeah, we'll answer whatever questions, if there's a whole bunch of questions. Don't be shy. We don't bite.
Thanks
Well,
for
we
being
really do
available.
appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no
that's
problem.
awesome.
No problem.
So my question is, because it really struck for me for a few reasons, and it's mainly stemming around um, some of the top reasons we have for search and rescue in British Columbia. The number one is injury. The second one is getting lost and disoriented. And the third one is exceeding abilities. So a lot of what Eric talked about tonight made me think about, okay, why do we rescue people? Why do they need help? Why are they calling us? And no matter the season, the sport, the subject, age, experience, the trends out there, those are the top three reasons. So my question for you is, if you're all ready to go, what should the run out have? Eric
What
said it very
should the runout
smoothly,
have?
quickly, and I thought it was clean and simple. And it's a two-word answer if you get the right two words that he
Oh, I
used.
know.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck. And I don't see people answering. So maybe this is one of the
No.
questions I've stumped you. I doubt it. I doubt it. Our audience is amazing. So, and everyone that joins and participates. So I kind of prefaced it a little bit with what I talked about why and how we rescue people, why we rescue people. And it really did stem around number one would be injury. So what do we not want to have in that run out? I was paying attention, someone says. But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
also have kids and trying to have dinner at the same time. Oh, you should get a prize just for
I
that,
want
Aaron.
yeah,
I want to have dinner too.
yeah.
So we've got a number of what I'll call correct, but not possibly the two words you're looking for answers. So what are the two words do you think she was looking for, Eric? And then we'll see whether or not they were what Sandra was looking for.
The two words you were looking for, like
Yeah,
for a run out, like for a good run out,
What the
yeah.
run out should have.
should have no hazards.
There you go.
No
That's what I would
hazards,
say.
no consequence,
Yeah.
which I thought was really nicely stated because we think about the fun and the Yahoo on the way down and everything that you talked about tonight, but really thinking about where you're doing it and what you'll come down to within that run out is a huge piece to that planning, right? And the planning sounds like a heavy word, but just thinking about where you're going to go and that there's no hazards down there. Like you mentioned, tree wells, it could be a cliff, could be rocks, could be ice. The conditions will vary. So we will find a winner in there. Thanks for playing my game. Thanks for being a little bit stumped on it. That makes me feel good on our
You
last
put me on a
one
spot,
here.
Sandra. I wasn't expecting you to ask me, and I wasn't prepared really I did the slideshows. I was like, I better answer this right. It's no
No
rocks. It's
pressure.
like, but I was like, okay, let's just keep it simple. It's no hazards. Come on, Eric.
It's
Yeah,
funny. That's
yeah,
funny.
that's funny.
Well, everyone, we've come to a close to our full winter webinar series. Scott, thank you for everything. As
Are we
always, it was a
doing this again
wonderful
sometime?
series. We are, and I'm going to talk about when we're doing it again. Eric, it was lovely to have you as the finale. It was great to have a different topic, unique
Yeah,
ideas on how we can embrace this activity and do it
yeah,
safely. I know
yeah,
BC Parks is going to promote this webinar over the next few weeks, so everybody look
yeah,
forward again. And plus, we're going to put this up on our BC Search and Rescue Association YouTube, along with all our other recordings. So there's a plethora of opportunities there to learn, share, pass it along to your friends. Really, that's what it's there for. It's there for you. We're here for you. And this is the last one of the season, but we'll be back. And we come back in early May, and I'll have quite a few queued up for summer 2026. There'll be a few different themes, a few different focuses. And what I'm excited about over this summer and actually into next winter is I'm going to focus a lot on helping you learn a little bit more about the different regions we have in British Columbia, the different rescues we have in British Columbia, and how search and rescue response varies dramatically, actually, throughout the whole province. So I'm really looking forward to bringing that to the table this summer and throughout the winter. Once again, we appreciate your time. We appreciate you getting informed and getting prepared for your adventures. We love that you get out there. On behalf of the 3,200 volunteers in the province of British Columbia who respond to about 1,960 search and rescue tasks each year, we appreciate you for getting informed. We can't wait to see you back here. Reach out to Eric if you have questions. DM us anytime as well on any of our socials if you have more questions or suggestions. If there's a topic that we haven't even thought about, let me know. We'd be happy to look into it. Thanks, everyone. We appreciate you. Take care and have fun out there. Good night.